Well, hello and welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm Cord Zoen, and today we have a very special guest, my good friend, Jeff Shimer, the VP of Training at Dale Carnegie.
Thanks. Great to be here, Cord.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jeff. You know, I look back on just my experience with your organization, and to be honest with you, it really changed my life about 14 years ago. And I really learned a lot about what leadership truly is.
That's great. Well, it's 14 years. I was wondering how long it's been. It feels like forever.
It's been a while.
We've been working together and friends. It's good stuff.
And so what was your path to being involved with the Dale Carnegie organization?
So interestingly, I was, 18 years old, and I was just super enthused about scouting. I had run for office and was elected national president of the Exploring Division of the Boy Scouts. It was a cool thing. I traveled all over the country, and I'm riding in an elevator in Clearwater from a travel agent back in those days with tickets to get on an airplane. And I'm wearing one of my jackets with a big seal on it. And this guy standing next to me just starts asking, "Hey, what's that all about? What's going on?" And I start just telling him because I'm all, enthusiastic,
Sure.
and he's like, "Oh, really?" And he just keeps asking questions. Bing, we get to the bottom, step out. We keep talking in the lobby for another 10 minutes. And he finally says, "How would you like to take a Dale Carnegie course?" And I go, "Sure. I don't know what it is, but sign me up," right? And I'd heard of the name, but I really didn't know what it was all about. So I get signed up. I end up going to the class, and the very first night, right, I'm sitting in the back, and up to the front bounds this little bitty bald-headed dude in this gorgeous suit who had so much energy, and he was old, right? And he just getting us fired up for the next presenter, right? He does this great introduction. We're all just super fired up, and up comes the guy I met in the elevator, right, to lead the thing. Now, come to find out, the old guy was 88 years old, right? Here I'm 18, he's 88. He's got more energy than me. He's one of the last people ever trained personally
With Dale
by
Carnegie?
Dale Carnegie.
Wow.
Yes, right. And so it was so funny. I remember distinctly that very first night, just while he's doing the introduction, I want to do that when I'm an old guy. And so I figure I'm halfway there.
But
I'm
you
well
didn't,
on my way.
It wasn't a straight line. So
Of course not, yeah.
You've obviously, you're great on camera, and that's just not by accident. You're trained to be on camera and to be a presenter, right?
Yeah, kind of. Again, I stumbled into another job working for the Home Shopping Network for 10 years, and I was on air 7 years of that, so that was really interesting.
How do you work your way up that ladder?
Well, that was before their first national broadcast. It was before infomercials. It was before direct, response TV ads. And my wife had gotten a job, looking for a job. We just finished up at University of Florida, moved back to Tampa Bay, and she went to work in HR at the Home Shopping Network. And she was there a couple months, and I was, struggling in what I was trying to figure out to do. But at the same time, I was getting trained as a Dale Carnegie trainer. So I was an adjunct trainer, and I got certified in 1986. So I'm celebrating 35 years as a Dale Carnegie trainer. Boy, it really makes me feel old. But my wife said, you could do that job. You could be on air.
Yeah, we're trying to find some on-air talent, and I think you could do it.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so I went and auditioned, they handed me something, said, "Here, sell it to me." And I, made it up and did it.
What was it?
I can't remember. I wish I could. Remember. But I sold some wacky stuff over the years, I'll tell you. Because back in those days, you sold whatever they gave you, and could be anything.
Now we're talking about an opal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, with some of this bad, ceramic statues. And, I used to know more about jewelry and women's fashion than any other guy I knew, right?
Oh,
so
gosh.
that was a lot of fun. So my Dale Carnegie career went simultaneously with my career at the Home Shopping Network.
Okay.
And so I was on air there for 7 years, and then became vice president of on-air talent. So I actually managed all the on-air talent at the Home Shopping Network, which was quite fascinating. And then the company got bought out. They changed hands, which it has many times. And me and all the other VPs got let go. And so I started a video production company for 10 years.
And that was the heyday of the Home Shopping Network, right? Like you probably saw some major growth.
I don't know about heyday, but certainly the growth and the straight up, straight line to the right kind of, we went from nothing to $1 billion in a couple of years. And this local outfit and a couple of entrepreneurs that had started the company, one was the money guy, one was the radio guy. And they just made it work and got it together. And it was a good idea that took off and was a heck of a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just remember when I was growing up, I'd go over to my grandmother's house or my aunt's house, and there'd be the Home Shopping Network on TV, and they'd be like promoting like some baseball cards or something, and all of a sudden they'd go, use Tootie, and I'm like, what's Tootie?
Well, that was an innovation at the time. That was one of the first voice response things or dial, automated order taking systems, which was really something. So, that was very innovative, not only in just the concept of selling stuff on TV, but of course, a lot of the electronic and behind the scenes stuff was pretty wild.
Yeah. So circling back to Dale Carnegie, my own personal experience, I remember when I was taking the course, I actually sat there and was listening to the content and looking at, the syllabus, so to speak. And I was like, this is all stuff my grandmother taught me. Mm-hmm. But I still found it extremely, like my grandmother taught me when I was like 7. Yeah. This is all stuff she used to tell me while we were baking cookies or something, right? But it was great for me to hear it as a 30-year-old because, these were concepts that I hadn't really been applying in my life, and it was amazing. I mean, it was almost innovative for me to hear them a second time because when I actually put them into practice, it really worked.
Well, and that's one of the things so many people tell us, Cords, is that, wow, I've never heard it quite like this, or this is such a great reminder of things I already knew that were important. I mean, you really boil it down. A lot of it is just be nice, and be empathetic with other people. And stop thinking about yourself and think about others. And that just, so much of that just clicks, but people forget it because they get caught up in the whirlwind of our day and all the pressures that we feel, and they forget and they get stuck in their own head. So it's one of the things we help people do is to think about other people and recognize where they can improve and how they do things.
So where does leadership come in? How do you connect being nice with leadership?
Well, people want to work for somebody who's nice. I mean, that's just no two ways about it, right? At the same time, they may not say they want it, but they want to be pushed. They want to be challenged to be their best. It's one of the innate things people have is a sense of mastery, if you will, to that. I want to get better at it. And some people fight that and squash that, but most people have that. To me, leadership is, particularly from a business context, is pretty straightforward. It's simple. It's just not easy. And it's building rapport on a personal level with the people you lead, and then clearly communicating expectations. Hey, here's what you need to do. Here's how we're going to look at it and measure it or talk about it. And then giving feedback in an appropriate way. What's going well? What needs to be better? Giving that coaching and reinforcement. Praising when they do it right. Correcting when they don't, having those hard conversations when they really mess up or they're not performing up to the standards you've agreed upon, and holding them accountable to produce those. So, it's a simple formula. It's just hard to do because it's people and emotions are involved and egos are involved, and I got to cut through so much of that to connect. And when you do connect, though, as people, then trust goes up. Those walls come down, and you're able to have those conversations so much better. So that's why being nice, following the concepts from Dale Carnegie's famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, leads to leadership and helps that work.
Yeah, I mean, I always fall back to, I love there's like that little golden book, and I love being able to reference it because for me personally, a lot of times what happens is I might encounter something and it just makes me feel like off. Like I shouldn't be feeling this way about this scenario. Like something is tweaked me. I feel like I'm listening, I'm hearing it. I feel like off. I'm not exactly sure Why exactly? I mean, that's just my own ability. Like I can't instantly like tell like, oh my God, like somebody just made me angry, you know, like I just feel off. But like, it's nice to have that little reference guide where there's 30 different principles in there and go through and just be like, okay, here's a situation. It's nice to, you know, be able to apply this thing. And and what's been great for me over the years that I've actually been applying, you know, trying my best to apply the principles I learned, is it helps me not screw up, you know?
Right.
It's like, I know if I do these things, at least I'm going to give the best possible outcome a chance to happen.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's always going to happen.
No.
You know, because there's a lot of factors to it. And, you know, any relationship it's more than one person. And so it's tricky. You know, those things are tough. But I love that. It gives you the best chance of a positive outcome. I think that's true.
Yeah, and then the other thing I really like about the course and the content is that the actual content hasn't really changed a tremendous deal since it was written over 100 years ago.
Yeah, you know, it evolved, of course. You know, when Dale started teaching his class at the YMCA in New York City, you know, he had 9 people show up the first day, and all he was teaching was public speaking because he needed a job. He was young and tough luck. He was trying to be an actor, wanted to be an author. He'd written some books, but he needed to make a living. And he said, well, what can I do? Well, I know public speaking. So he went to the Y and said, hey, let me help teach business people who need help with this, right? And they said, sure, we'll rent you the room. You know, so and he had to make it work because if he didn't inspire people to come back the next week, he didn't make money.
It was a business.
That's right. It was a business. And probably the first 6 years of that, he was really figuring that out on his own as a young entrepreneur, just giving it a go. And then he tweaked it and learned as he went, and he tried new things. And he was an innovator. I mean, he's on radio when radio was brand new. He traveled around the world doing, you know, videos and other things with other people, other famous people that he worked with. He wrote a book called Little Known Facts about well-known people. I mean, just some interesting stuff that he did. And he took 20 years to write How to Win Friends and Influence People. So it didn't just happen like that. Now, he had already found success with his courses, so he had the resources. He hired some of the best researchers of the day to interview all the famous people and successful people of his time. Plus, he'd been running these classes just so much, and he's capturing stories from everyday people through his classes and doing a booklet like the Golden Book you're talking about. Then that was the book, and then it grew into How to Win Friends and Influence People. And when he finally published it in 1936, it was an instant bestseller, just right to the top, made him world famous, and just bolstered the career. Now, the interesting thing is today, it's still a bestseller.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been updated a few times, but not changed dramatically, and it's still just a classic.
Yeah, and because it's true. I mean, I heard a statement the other day is that the truth is like a lion. It can defend itself. Just let it out of the cage.
I love it.
and when things are true and authentic, they can just spread on their own. Now, the Dale Carnegie, obviously it's a franchise model, and you're part of the group here in Tampa, very well-connected organization. How many franchises are there?
There are about 300 worldwide, and we're offered all over the world. And the Dale Carnegie's programs, the Dale Carnegie course and our other curriculum are presented in about 30 languages, I think now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough. I serve on a committee called the International Training Quality Board for Dale Carnegie, and it's so fascinating. I work with, you know, other trainers like me from all over the world. You know, I've become good friends with a guy in Egypt, and I feel like I've got a great relationship with a woman in Northern England, and it's so cool. We all do the same thing for independent organizations and together as a collective and work together. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Well, I mean, again, the reason I really like it is there's these truths about human nature.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to ask you, across cultures, how much does the messaging and the lessons change? Because you hear about how there's different value systems in different parts of the world. How much does the curriculum still the same everywhere, or is it adjusted?
It's identical. There's really very little change from it. In fact, I'll say this many times jokingly in the class or when I'm working with another trainer, which is one of the things I do is develop other trainers, is I'll say, hey, remember, it's the Dale Carnegie course. It's not the Jeff Shimer course. It's a program that's been tested and a lot of great smart people well past Dale Carnegie, because he passed in 1955, and the organization has grown enormously since then. I mean, he was still back then just the United States primarily. So anyway, it has stayed very consistent, and the methodology is what really makes it work. And so everybody puts their own spin on it. So, a trainer in Taiwan is going to be different than a trainer in Tucson, but the methodology is the same and the core content is the same.
So human nature is human nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. No two ways about it.
What is it for you that connects yourself to doing the training? You're a charismatic guy. You're really smart. You've been with the franchise for a very long time. What is it about training that?
So, well, there's two sides to it, Cords. Part of it is it's selfish. Okay. I get a kick out of standing in front of people and showing off. Okay, so I'm a little bit of a show off. I love
like
doing
a rooster.
that. Come on, I was on TV for 7 years,
true.
right? There's a certain buzz you get with that,
yeah.
And it's fun, and I know what works, and I love the reaction I'm going to get. But also, it challenges me to do my best in my personal life, challenge myself to reach my goals. And so that's the selfish side, which is a big driving force to it.
Yeah.
But also the satisfaction I get from helping other people is fantastic.
I'm sure.
Like when I walked in today, saying hi to all your staff.
Yeah,
I know just about everybody here
that's
been through a course. And I love that connection. Just yesterday, I got to have the second session of a Dale Carnegie course I do for a group of young teenagers who were homeless or were just previously homeless and have been taken into a facility, a group home. And we had one girl yesterday, was brand new to the program. First day in the program. And right after, they put her right in our class. She doesn't know the other 15 kids. She doesn't know me. And it was the session where they stand up and tell their defining moment, right?
Oh, gosh.
2 minutes or so, right? And she waits to go last or nearly last. And because everybody else had gotten up and shared their authentic story, and these kids' stories are unbelievable.
And that's multiple sessions in.
This is second session. This is the second session. And so for everybody, it was tough ground, and some of them have a hard time, and some really have to be coaxed to share. But when they do, it's so powerful and moving, and they support each other so much. It's really something, because you're talking about abuse and homelessness, and just really gut-wrenching stories. Well, she gets up there and tells her story, and she gets emotional, but composes herself and talks about the challenge she's had and what's landed her here where she's now in this group, and they voted for her and gave her the Breakthrough Award.
That's amazing.
As a brand new person that they just met. And so when I get to facilitate that and use my skills to help that group of young people find new outlooks on life and new optimism and set new goals and a vision for themselves. I've lived a life that's full. It's fantastic. Yeah.
That's something else.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You're right, because a job just isn't about the money.
No.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all, for sure. And it's, that feeling, and Dale Carnegie wrote this when he was writing to trainers, to instructors, saying, look, if you can help change even one life in a positive way, your life will have, had meaning. And so that satisfaction, that feeling for me is fantastic. And I hope to keep doing it till I'm 88, like that guy I first met. So got a few years to go.
I have a feeling you will be. So in terms of the success of the organization, the franchise that you have here, I remember a few years ago you guys were voted the top franchise in the organization. Mm-hmm. I think y'all were in Hawaii or something like that.
Acapulco.
Okay. Sounds tropical.
It was pretty cool on the coast of Mexico with the cliff divers and all that.
Perfect. But I remember, you guys really do care about what you're doing, and I'm sure you've got an incredible network within our community, and obviously our community is growing so much. How has that changed what your organization's doing, and what and how have you seen the Tampa Bay area growth changing?
Well, so, I'll kind of tackle that in two ways. One is that we're experiencing change that everybody's experiencing. So some of those are technologically, we're all familiar with Zoom and we're online and
Right.
meetings aren't in person anymore, that kind of thing. And at the beginning of the pandemic, of course, we just, we can't get people in a room. How are we going to make a living? So we pivoted everything to online, and we learned a lot about ourselves,
Yep.
about our curriculum, about what works, about what do we need to do to make it better. And we're still rolling out new stuff. We got everything's on an app now. You can do just some amazing things with the technology, and that's been pretty cool. And the folks in Tampa Bay have done a really great job of getting on board with that. They still want to be in person, particularly here. Most of our folks, I know your folks are that way. Most of our clients are, look, we prefer being face-to-face, which is okay. But the growth here in the area, we stay very involved, like with that group that I'm talking about. It's called Starting Right Now, the group that helps the previously homeless teens in Pinellas and Hillsborough counties. We work with a lot of other organizations, a lot of youth-serving organizations, been kind of our focus. We're very involved with the Tampa Bay Chamber, the
Right.
Greater Tampa Bay Chamber. In fact, Rick, our CEO, was chairman of the Small Business of the Year, which you guys have competed in and, done great in. And that, what that does
Sure.
to connect people. And so we tried to give back. We give coaching that way to, business owners who are wanting to expand and do that kind of stuff. So that's been really cool to see a lot of the changes and the development in, like the area from like downtown St. Pete, downtown Tampa, the other areas around just grow and blossom as business communities and great places to live is really cool. And to see us kind of starting to get some of that technology, some of that cybersecurity that we're really, getting known for. Of course, McDill, we do a lot of work there on the base, and bring, I've got a guy in a class transitioning out of the military, going to the Dale Carnegie
Yep.
course as a way to help. So
Very smart. I'd be interested to talk to him when he's done.
yeah, that's good stuff.
So you're doing a ton of what we call B2b selling. What is y'all's secret to doing that? I mean, you're talking about some of the networking and the volunteering that you're doing, but how do you guys scale with B2B?
So it's just like we teach in our sales curriculum or our Dale Carnegie course. It's about connections. It's about relationships. And so, we meet people and usually they're curious about what we do. And then we want to sit down and really get to know each other. We'll spend a lot of time saying, tell me about you. Tell me about your business. What are your goals? What are you looking to accomplish? And really form a relationship. Then there's a high level of trust, because we have this conversation all the time with clients who say, yeah, I want to do some training. I want to develop my people, but we just don't have a lot of budget, or I want to fix this problem, but you know what? I'm going to do it in a 2-hour workshop. And we'll go, okay, 2-hour workshop is good, but you're not going to solve any big business issues. You're not going to change much behavior with that. I mean, it's, putting a Band-Aid on, something that's bleeding.
Well, isn't there a difference between knowledge that you might get out of a 2-hour workshop and like emotional growth, emotional intelligence?
Well, it's and you're right on point, is we talk about, it's our transformational formula. Is that people want a performance change. Okay, I want better customer service. I want better innovation. I want higher sales. Whatever that performance change they're looking for is, or better efficiency, right? Well, you have to change behavior to get the performance change, right? That just makes sense. If I do what I've always done, I'm going to get what I've always gotten. I got to change what I'm doing. There's lots of knowledge for that, but we offer the coaching and the feedback and the practice that helps do that. But we say the third part of that formula is the emotional or the mental shift that's required in order to make that stick and to maximize that change.
Or does it take longer for people to develop new habits in that way than just knowing that they exist?
Yes and no. It depends. Part of it is, what is that emotional shift they need to make? What is the behavior we're talking about? So, just an example of that is, okay, we've got, let's say we've got a leader who has a small business or a group, right? And they want their team to be engaged and really contributing, right, to the thing. And so one of the things they want to work on, well, look, I've been told I'm not a great listener. So as a boss, I need to listen better. So they work on listening, they intently take notes, and they do the behaviors of good listening. But if in their brain, their emotions are, why is he wasting my time? Holy cow, doesn't he know I got important things to do? I have so much stuff on my plate, well, that impatience, or that, why are you asking me stupid questions? That impatience is going to bust down the behavior. So it's that getting to a place of peace, calm, I've got my stuff under control.
Right.
I'm going to fully give this person my attention. I'm really going to be with them because they have something important they want to say or that they need my help on. Let me really genuinely, empathetically think from their point of view. Now that listening will accomplish the performance change you want. So it's more than just the behavior. I've got to have the mindset that goes with it, or I don't get the performance change I'm looking for.
I remember when I took the class and I came back to be an assistant coach because it had made a big difference in just how it was interesting because like I had multiple personal relationships and work relationships that instantly got better. Mm-hmm. And I just was super excited about it. And I remember when I came back to assist one of the coaches, it was like I got a whole nother layer to the education.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm imagining you've got a super parfait at this point of layers of because you've done it so many times.
Yeah.
How many businesses in the Tampa Bay area have you guys worked with?
Well, we work with a lot. I mean, almost everybody. There are very few companies, well-known name companies, that we've not done work for. I wish I could say we did it all the time, year after year, but we do a lot. And we work with a lot of small companies, and we work with a lot of individuals, mm-hmm. people who are individual contributors working to grow themselves or start their own business, that kind of thing. And so we help give them the confidence and some of the leadership skills, sales skills, those kind of things to help them achieve those results.
How important is when you're going through some kind of a program, and not just the Dale program, but leadership in general, when you're mm-hmm. trying to transform yourself, how important is it to be in an environment that's supportive?
Well, it's super, super important. I know, and we almost, we'll joke about it or talk about it because one of the things we'll teach in our leadership curriculum, as is innovation, how to lead a team through either, a change to do something better, faster, quicker, make more money, try something new, whatever it is, right? So to innovate as a team. And we've got a whole process we go through. And we talk about, how many leaders will say, okay, everybody come on into the conference room. Let's have a meeting. I'm looking for good ideas on how to raise revenue. Okay, what do you think? Give me some good ideas. Oh, that's a stupid idea. That'll never work, right? And boom, immediately you just turn the faucet right off.
You just shut down innovation.
Yeah, you just shut it down. And the leader just thinks that they're doing the right thing because they're smart. They realize that was a dumb idea. And it may be a dumb idea. But when I criticize it that way, right off the bat in front of it, I'm not going to get any other ideas, dumb or otherwise.
That's right. I'm not speaking up.
That's
I don't
right. I'm done.
Person.
Yeah, forget about it. So, it's those kind of things that are subtle in some ways. In some ways, they're not. They're obvious. But it's those shifts that can make a big difference in how a team performs.
And you guys, in terms of how you're structured, you guys have a handful of full-time employees, and then you have some teachers that come in who have full-time jobs, but they also do some instructing.
Right. Yeah, we have both career folks who are primarily performance consultants. Mm-hmm. I do that role as well, where we'll work with companies, all over Tampa Bay to give them, hey, here's what we think would help you solve this issue, and share with them, consulting advice, and then we'll deliver a lot of the training ourselves, like I do for you guys. And I love that relationship is really great.
Sure.
But then we have adjunct trainers, or as we call avocational. So that's what I did for the 20 years before when I worked for Home Shopping and had my own company. And then I joined full-time in about 2006 and been doing it since.
And so with a performance-based program like what you have, where you've got over 100 years of legacy content, right? And this content is just so true, and it's applied every time you roll out a course. What other innovations are happening within your curriculum or your service offerings?
Yeah, so like I said, the online is amazing, and for us to convert, because all of us old timers have said, "Oh, you can't put the Dale Carnegie course online. That's just that's sacrilegious. That's terrible. It won't work." And we've seen where it does, where we get people on camera in front of their camera doing, the box that, there was a Duke of York, he had to, standing up, sitting down, doing the whole warm-ups and the skits and drills and some of the more challenging things we do in in-person setting, we do it online and getting great results. We've added the back-end part where now, how normally you're sitting in class, say, okay, open your book, write down the commitment you're going to make on what you're going to do. Because a lot of the course is outside the classroom. It's applying it in your personal life and your professional life, and then coming back and talking about the results. That's part of our methodology that just is so
That's why I like the
timeless.
longer, the 8-week course instead of the
Anytime
concentrated.
you can spread it out and do a time phase, it's so beneficial to do that. Well, now we've put all that in the cloud, and so I can access it from anywhere. I can access it on my smartphone. So if I'm thinking, oh, what did I say I was going to do in Dale Carnegie? Well, I don't have to go dig out my manual and hopefully I wrote something down. Now I've got it. Boom, I can access it. I can even set it for reminders. I can do chat boards with the other members of my class. And so when teams of people from an organization come together, then they share that same language, that same accountability with each other and support and encouragement. So, boy, that's when organizations really get some of those results, because the individuals are doing it, but they're doing it collectively as a team, and they just magnify the benefits.
So specifically what you're talking about is you can send individuals into a leadership class. I'm just speaking generically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And maybe 2 people from your organization can go. Well, obviously they can't hold a class if there's only 2 people in the class, potentially, right? Typically classes need 10 to 15-ish type people. But you're saying that if you can send in a group of people from the organization, you can actually see more results?
To our public class or a private class like you guys are doing, right? So either way, when you go as a team, there's that camaraderie. So, and you've done it before where you've had people, a handful, go to a class, even if it's 2 or 3. We have a group from a company locally. I had a kickoff session for a 3-day Dale Carnegie course we're doing next week. And they have 9 people from one organization that are going to be in this class, and then 5 from another organization. So that's a bulk of the classes from those 2 organizations. But those teams will get the benefit of being in this public program where there's other people from other businesses, where you hear other ideas and things, but then also have the common experience, the common language, some of the common goals together going as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the value from seeing another group's completely different perspective, and then also having a group of people that are actually in the same organization all kind of going through, because then they're all going into the class with the same goals and things like that.
Yeah.
How does the transition of communication, obviously there's a lot more virtual communication these days, and you're saying that it's working, like being able to get training online, it does work. I remember back when the pandemic first started, you guys were on the cutting edge of using every single Zoom feature that they have allowed. Like you're going to go down to the 3 dots and you're going to hit the thing, and you're going to raise your hand virtually, and you guys were figuring out ways to incorporate all of that. How much communication is lost by us going online?
Well, it depends. And I think, I'll give you the example. I had that kickoff session today, and this is a 1-hour kickoff. And the variety of people that are on the call is very interesting. Some people have a beautiful home studio set up with a great setup and background. They really know what they're doing. They spend a lot of time that way. And others have no camera, or they're on their phone in their car, trying to make do with it, and saying things like, now where do I find the chat, and how do I give a thumbs up, and so, but when you do a program that's completely online, you spend some time getting everybody on the same page to use the technology. to make it engaging and interactive. So we don't do it just to get people to jump through hoops. We do it to show engagement and maximize those tools where everybody's involved and sharing ideas and really paying attention.
So outside of specifically even Dale Carnegie, what are some things we can do as people who have to now conduct our business lives online and in these Zoom calls and Teams calls and, what are some things we can do to make personal connections or make better connections with people?
So a couple of the things that you can do. One is take it seriously, is to know that you are making a first impression, like you've done this beautiful studio and the way you do the podcast is fantastic. Yeah. And I love your whole studio and all the stuff you guys do. It's fantastic. So take that seriously. Get some good lighting. Have a good camera. If the camera on your laptop is lousy, buy one and plug it in. It's not that hard. Get a good microphone.
Brush your hair.
Yeah, right. Try, maybe try even a little makeup or something,
Yeah.
So, but present it. And then a couple of things. Sit up, have good posture, have the camera at eye level. All those little things make a big difference on your impression. Turn your camera on. Invite your clients or prospects to turn their camera on. If they absolutely refuse, it's okay. But when they do, encourage them, thank them. Oh, it's so great to see you face to face. It's nice that we could connect.
If they don't turn the camera on, I'm thinking, what?
Make it a phone call. What's the point? Right. I mean, I can show them slides, but death by PowerPoint occurs virtually as much as it does in person.
In person, like I can tell if you want to say something. I get that little twinkle in your eye, like, hey, Cords, wrap it up because I'm about to talk.
Right. Yeah.
And so it is really, really important to keep your camera on. These virtual
absolutely, and to get good with the technology. To don't throw your slide up and leave it there when it's not got any new information. Stop sharing.
How about virtual backgrounds?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan because people disappear. They get shadows around their things. If you have a green screen,
can be distracting.
Beautiful. And if your camera and your computer can process a good virtual background nicely, awesome. I love it. I'm a little more old school. Give me a good studio, with some good lighting. You should see my setup at home. I've got my.
I'm sure you had a lot of fun doing it.
It's it's okay, but it's you want to take it seriously. The other thing is don't get away from personal conversation. One of my favorite meetings is I'm lucky enough I got asked to join a delivery team that delivers for Indeed and TikTok. Okay. Now, this drove my teenage daughter crazy. You can't be doing stuff for TikTok, Dad. That's not
I'm going to have to stop using it.
I'm going to have to. She just blew her mind, right? But I'm working with executives and people.
You're going to make her not want to use TikTok if Dad's involved.
Crazy, right? Yeah. So this whole team of trainers from all over the world that have been hand-selected to be part of this delivery team meets, and it's just such a cool group of people. So the guy who runs it is just a great mentor of mine within Dale Carnegie, and he sends out the agenda. It says first 10 minutes, just catch up, social time. That does. If anybody's late, that's all they miss. But it gives everybody. How's it going? What's going on? How's the weather up there? How are you doing? How are things in India or California or wherever?
Tell me about the football on your shelf behind your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing. So for the group just to reconnect or chit chat. And because those personal connections goes back to my definition of leadership, it starts with rapport. I have to have a level of intimacy and trust as human beings in order to move ahead and work together as a team or be an effective leader. So to me, don't forget about that part virtually, is ask those questions. Build time into your sales pitch, sales call, team meetings or whatever, just to connect. Now, I know when the pandemic first happened, it was all the rage, we're going to do a virtual happy hour, right? And everybody just got together and,
do it once.
Yeah, exactly. You do it once. It was gone. By May of that year, it was done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But that concept is still a great idea of, look, if we can't be together in person, we need to get together virtually and just hang out. Because there's so much benefit to that. Because then we know each other as people, not just workmates or business associates. Right.
How about the goggles or any of the metaverse stuff? Is any of that going to change?
I can only imagine. I mean, the optimistic side of me says, can you a Dale Carnegie course virtually where everybody's doing the drill, getting up, giving their talk to the whole
You could
group?
Co-teach with your friend from Egypt.
It would be so cool because he's awesome, right? And so, And, that would make it where it's like you're standing next to each other, like you're in the room, you're standing up. It would be pretty cool. We'll see, what it comes to, but the possibilities are fantastic.
Well, I'm excited about the future. And Jeff, thank you so much for coming in and sharing some of your expertise on how we can be more relevant in today's day and age and all this technology and everything that's going on.
Thanks for having me. It's been an honor.
So where can people learn more about Dale Carnegie and follow your thought leadership?
TampaBay.DaleCarnegie.com is our website here for Dale Carnegie Tampa Bay. That's great. They can reach out to you. You know how to put them in touch with us for sure. We are online. Like I say, you can download the Golden Book app, from DaleCarnegie.com. So
highly recommend it.
Those are great.
Yeah, and if you need to know more about what those principles mean, pick up the book.
Absolutely.
It's a great place to start. A lot of people that come to work here, we actually send, as you know, we send every single employee through the Dale Carnegie program. A lot of them said, well, I read the book. And I was like, well, you're going to really like the class then.
They go together well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Jeff. And everyone at home, you can follow us online anywhere where podcasts are found and on all of our social media at Bake More Pies and thelawofrelevancy.com. Jeff, great to see you again, and thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.